Welcome, everyone. This is Jim Sporer with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. It's my pleasure today to introduce our ISSIP member from Sweden, Stockholm, I believe, Adam Tacy. Adam has been working on something called the progress economy, and I've read the material that you've sent, Adam. I see you building this amazing world of concepts and how they're connected, and the value of it is for seeing a new lens on innovation. So I think this would be of great interest to the ISSIP community. So Adam Tacy, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more and bring up your slides, and we should be ready to go.
Cool, fantastic. Great, yeah, so hi everyone, Adam's my name. As Jim mentioned, I've got this idea of this thing called the progress economy. Today I'm going to go through a little bit about how I got to a definition of innovation in the progress economy. The genesis of it really comes from having tried to run innovation myself, getting disappointed with the outcomes and the approaches, and really trying to think how can we get innovation to be a little bit more systematic. And so yeah, I spent some time breaking a lot of stuff down and then rebuilding it up. And progress economy is kind of the output of the building it back up again. So yeah, if we could jump to the next slide, Jim, cheers. Great. So this is a big, busy slide. This is the progress economy, but I'm not intended to go through every single part of this because I think that's a very long session, very interesting, but very long session. But what you can see here is the progress economy is a sort of a 4-layer lens. 3 of them you can see here. The underlying lens to everything is service dominant logic. So that kind of informs these 3 other layers. And the way to kind of look at this diagram is to think there's a left-hand side and a right-hand side. The left is people that are trying to make progress. The right-hand side is people that are helping make progress. Progress itself is moving over time to a more desired state. And then the 3 layers we see here at the top, we have kind of what is progress. And I think we'll spend a little bit more time. Sorry, Jim, if we could jump back, I think that might be a timing thing on that. Just here, the top layer there is what is progress. The middle layer is how is progress made, it's a set of activities, where is the resource integration in each activity. And the bottom layer is trying to understand how is progress decided and who makes those decisions. So as I said, today we're going to take a bit of a slice through this to get to how do I get to what the definition of innovation in the progress economy is. So cool, there, if we could jump to the next one, please. Yep. So this, I think, is a bit of a generic definition of innovation, but I think you find most fit into this. Innovation is creating something new that adds value. It sounds great, looks nice, but to me, it doesn't actually tell me anything. It doesn't really explain what value is. It doesn't explain what new is. It's just not that helpful to me. So, and this is where I was maybe 8-9 years ago. We were trying to run innovation. This is what we were trying to do. And yeah, we get up quite a few innovative ideas, but nothing would really stick with the business. There was no traction on things. People would say, great ideas. But then, yeah, how do you get them going forwards? So as I said, then I started breaking things down. And then I got to really, really at the bottom of what the problem I was having was. So if we can hit next, Jim, please. Yep. Then here we are, right at the bottom. What is value? Everything that I dissected, this is what I came down to. What is value? And without understanding value, then it seemed very difficult to understand what's happening, how the world works, how do you do innovation? If we can just hit next, we should see value in exchange, value in use. I think in this community, we don't have to dig too much into these 2 concepts. But, the one on the left, value in exchange, is how most people seem to think the world works, where manufacturers embed value into products and services. There's a moment of exchange, and then the customer, consumer, goes off and uses up that value. it's nice. It's worked for several hundred years, that kind of thinking. And with value in exchange, we know value is the same as price. It's this embed value, exchange, destroy, kind of maps a little bit, I think, to the linear economy of take, make, and waste. And that's where everyone's thinking is. And perhaps the problem there is you end up just adding another razor blade to the razor cartridge. On the right-hand side, then we have the more evolved value in use thinking. This is where we stop thinking about outputs and we start thinking about, yeah, value is created as we do things, so we co-create value. It's done in use, where we're jointly doing things. The only problem I had with that one is I struggle to understand what value is. So when you compare the two, value in exchange to value in use, it makes a nice story. It's making a difference. But value in exchange, I see it, it's the price. Value in use, I started to struggle. What really is value? What are we creating? And then I started thinking, well, to me, something is valuable in use if I achieve something, or if I arrive at something that I was trying to do. And then sort of, as an ex-project manager, I started thinking of Gantt charts, and you start thinking of activities, and you start thinking maybe there's earned value concepts. And so I kind of came to the conclusion that value in use in this case it's all about progress. So if we hit the next one, Jim, please. Yeah. So value in use, it's all about making progress. It's moving over time to a more desirable state. And now I can start kind of judging rather than measuring value, but I can look at a proposition and I can say, yeah, that has potential to help me progress. And when I'm using a proposition, I can start saying to myself, yeah, I've achieved the value I wanted to, not just at the end, but as I go along. So I can constantly start thinking, am I making the progress I wanted to? Is there still the progress I want to be left? And then perhaps value becomes something that either emerges from progress or maybe even equals progress. So that's progress. And then as I started building this whole model up, it seemed nice to call it the progress economy because we start explaining a lot of things. So if we jump to the next slide, then we'll a bit more look into what progress is. So to me, it's a verb and it's a noun and it's a state transition. So as a verb, it is this kind of statement moving over time to a more desirable state. As a noun, then, it is the state. So, two quick examples of progress. I could travel from point A to point B, or another example could be, I want to enjoy a really nice meal. And they're both changes of state. The desirable state in the first one is getting to point B. The desirable state in the second is that, I've had a really enjoyable meal. And in those two examples, you can see there's a slight difference. One is more functional and the other one is more non-functional. So moving from A to B is very functional. Enjoying a nice meal is kind of more non-functional progress. There's a little bit of functional in there as well that I want to eat. So we end up saying the progress is perhaps made up of functional components and non-functional components. And then when you start thinking a bit more, there's actually a contextual part. So if we take the move from A to B, it doesn't have to have a non-functional bit, but I could say, hey, I want to do it as quick as I can, or I have plenty of time, so I want to do it as scenic as I can. But there's also some context. So I could say, I want to do it in the middle of rush hour. So now you start constraining the solution space a little bit more by the functional, the non-functional, and the contextual aspects of progress. Another really interesting bit about progress is there's a lack of resource progress hurdle. And what I mean by that is ignore any propositions or goods or services or training that exist. Let's go right back to the caveman age. So I want to make some progress. I can only make the progress that I have the skills and knowledge that I can do, or if I find some natural thing that can act as a goods type thing. So progress is very limited because I lack the resources to do a lot of things. And it could be a problem, but the reason I call it a hurdle rather than a barrier is because it doesn't stop everybody from trying to make the progress. So some seekers, that's what we call people trying to make the progress. Some seekers will say, hey, I see there's a hurdle. I don't have the resource, but I'm going to try anyway. And some of those seekers that try will actually succeed. And once they succeed, they have this kind of now new knowledge and skills. And what they would tend to do is they would go, okay, I can either capture my new knowledge and skills in a goods, or I could perhaps exchange my knowledge and skills for somebody else that has progressed with some other thing that I want, swap them, or they could even perhaps turn their knowledge and skills into training to train somebody else. So if we hit the next button, then we'll see that the lack of resource progress hurdle actually gives rise to progress propositions, which at a very high level is just basically offering missing resources. At a little more detailed level, it's an offer of a specific mix of resources and a set of proposed activities to help make some specific progress. And the reason why you have this mix of resources is because it could be, the examples we just gave, it could be training, it could be a goods, it could be helping someone. So it's a mix of employees, of systems, of goods, and of physical resources. And it doesn't have to be all of those. You could have a resource mix that's just goods, or you could have a resource mix that's a combination. The reason for the proposed activities being added there too is because that's also a lack of resource. If you don't know the activities on how to make the progress, you lack the resource of doing that. So the proposition is those resources to help plus the proposed activities. And it might be the fact that the seeker ignores those proposed activities. On Saturday, for example, I'm having a new oven delivered, but I have no intention of reading the instruction manual that comes with it. Something else is quite interesting with this diagram that you see here. On the left-hand side, where we're looking for the more desired state, I really suspect that this kind of maps back to sort of Christensen's job to be done theory. So I think we'll find that that job to be done theory can really help explain how we identify these more desired states. On the right-hand side, what I'm trying to show here is that the progress offered doesn't have to match the progress sought. So we can offer less progress, we could offer exact progress, or we could offer more progress. And again, I think if we offer less progress, then we might be able to understand disruptive innovation theory. And where we're offering a combination of more progress and less progress, I think we might get some insights there into blue ocean strategy. So this little diagram here, I think, is quite powerful to understand what is progress offered, what are the propositions. Excuse me. So if we then jump on to the next one, Jim. Then here we have the much more fuller definition of a progress proposition. So what we're kind of saying here is, yeah, it's an offer. That's what service dominant logic tells us. Can't have value itself. It can only be a value proposition. So it's an offer by an entity that we're going to call a progress helper to offer to help make progress in a specific aspect of a progress seeker's life. It's made up of a series of activities that mostly take place as attempts to integrate resources from the seeker and the helper. This is an interesting bit here when we start thinking about who drives the activities. So when we think of the seeker driving the activities, then our proposition kind of fits into more of an enabling proposition. And there's a continuum here between enabling and relieving propositions. When it's the progress helper that's going to do most of the activities or drive most activities, then it's on the relieving side. As we said, the activities are often proposed by the helper, but the seeker doesn't have to follow them. However, if you're on a relieving proposition and the seeker doesn't really follow the activities, then the progress is going to be hampered. I'll come back to that as a final point here. These activities, they may be tangible or intangible. This point here, I've taken this definition, I model it on a definition from Grunas on services. He talks very much about them being intangible. I'm not quite sure how much of a benefit this is to my definition, but I have it here just now as I'm still exploring. It does help us lead into Vargo and Lush's sort of myths of services and saying how, the 5 I's are not necessarily bad things, they can be good things. So it may disappear in future definitions, but it's here just now. And then the resource mix is, as we say, employee, systems, goods, or physical resources. And the final point here is, I think, where I diverge a little bit from service dominant logic. In service dominant logic, we say that value is uniquely and phenomenologically determined only by the beneficiary. Here I'm saying that either party could terminate progress, usually due to a feeling of progress being hampered. It's overwhelmingly a seeker's decision, but there will be occasions where the helper says, hey guys, we can't make progress because you're not following the activities that we suggest. And so, for example, I've been involved in a number of agile projects where the client wanted to do agile, but they didn't understand the agile approach and they didn't do things the agile way, and we couldn't deliver in the engagement in an agile manner. And we had to say, okay, let's stop. This just isn't working. So there can be a little divergence, and that's going to go back to how much we see progress equating to value. Then I think if we jump on to the next slide, this was a bit of a revelation to me. When we talk about progress having the lack of resource hurdle, once we start bringing propositions into play, then we actually find there are 5 more hurdles that we get. We still have the lack of resource hurdle, because even though the proposition is trying to add resources to help, it may not add enough resources. And actually it may bring in new hurdles. So take getting from A to B as the progress I want to make. If someone offers me, hey, we can give you an aircraft and you can fly from the local airport just over the water from your house to wherever you need to get to, that's great, but I don't know how to fly. So that introduces a new hurdle for me. Then we have adoptability as a hurdle, and this is basically Roger's innovation adoption. So compatibility, complexibility, relative advantage. There could be resistance as a hurdle. Progress seekers may postpone or reject. They may even propose to the propositions. Think of Google Glass here, for example, and that was kind of rejected, and then some people opposed it. If someone wants to build a nuclear reactor in your apartments, that might also get opposed. There's a misalignment here on the continuum. We talked a little bit about enabling and relieving continuum on these progresses. If the seeker is looking for a relieving proposition, let's say they're risk adverse, they want the seeker to drive everything. If you're offering an enabling proposition, then there's a hurdle there that either needs to be crossed for the seeker to engage, or they'll just not engage. Does the seeker trust the proposition and the helper? And this is kind of more to do with brand and marketing. And then the final one here, effort elsewhere. This is, if we're to use lazy English, this basically is price. But we have to turn it into a service dominant way of thinking. And because we have no value in exchange, then price no longer is value. Price, it turns out, can relate to the number of service credits that a seeker needs to get from doing service elsewhere in order to get the service that they're after. So here the hurdle is really about reducing the amount of effort that a seeker feels they have to do elsewhere in order to engage. And this then very quickly moves us through. So we've talked about progress. Propositions pop up because of the lack of resource hurdle. Once you put a progress proposition, then you end up with all these other hurdles. And then if we jump onto the next slide, then this is the definition of innovation. Yeah, a nice fancy transition. So here we are, we've gone from saying, innovation is something that creates, something new that creates value. Now we can actually be quite clear what it is. It's executing a new progress proposition that offers some combination of the following three things. It either helps a progress seeker to make better progress. So nowadays they may not be able to make all of the progress they look for, so we can help them get nearer their goal. Or we can help them make the progress they can do today better. And of course, better is uniquely and phenomenologically determined by the seeker. But let's say they want to do something quickly. If we can help them do it quicker, then we've innovated. Or we could reduce one or more of those 6 progress hurdles that we just saw. Of course, we need to maintain and improve, or improve the survivability of the progress helper. There's no point creating and executing an innovation that destroys us as a provider. And within there's lots of levers, if we go back in some of the bits and think about how systematically looking then for innovation. So the first 2 points there, we need to better understand the progress, the functional, the non-functional, the contextual progress. Then there's, can we do sort of blue ocean strategies or job to be done? Or is there disruptive innovation if we can find the markets for that? There's the innovation to make progress better. Can we improve the goods? Can we improve employees? There's improving employees, Jim, is like taking your stuff from your book on AI in the service era. Can we improve employees by augmenting them with AI? Or can we actually replace the employee with AI? And that kind of brings us on to thinking a bit, what can we do systematically there in the progress proposition area? Well, in there, we have that service mix. So, we could alter the service mixes. So digitization is an example. An old example would be, the old bricks to clicks. Then you're changing the service mix from physical resources of offices and meeting places to digital systems, digital twins. Another example, AI itself is a good example, really encapsulating what would be employee knowledge as systems and making it more available. Progress propositions also have the list of activities there, so you can do progress innovation on this. Sorry, process organization on those activities. So this definition gives us really a lot of levers to go along and say, okay, what can I go and systematically look at to go and innovate? And that really is the 20 minutes of slides. Yeah. So we have progress. Out of progresses, you get progress propositions. And then from progress propositions, you get this understanding now of what the innovation is. And that's it really, Jim. I have one more slide, which is really just showing again the whole thing there. But this is what I'm exploring. This is what I'm building. And any comments or questions or stuff either today or via the ISSIP pages or on my website or anywhere, really helpful because, this is me kind of sitting in isolation coming up with this. I'm sure there's errors. I'm sure there's things people could say, hey, this could be improved, or what about this? Yeah.
Fantastic, Adam. I want to just say a couple things about why I really like this so much. One thing is you are the epitome of what we like to call a T-shaped lifelong learner, an adaptive innovator. You're studying new things, you're integrating things, you're challenging concepts. And what I find excellent about your work is I have a clearer understanding of value, innovation, and progress as a result of the work that you're doing. What's always kind of bothered me and I think it bothered you about this value innovation thing is, I think it's almost like there's progress sub entity or progress sub humanity, the world, you know, having a way to refer to collectives that can judge value is really, really important. And I think you've clarified that so much with your work. Let me ask a first question, since Chat GPT is in the world. I'm wondering, you know, that very first hurdle, and maybe I'll go back to the hurdle slide here. When you think of the lack of resource hurdle, could you just say a little bit about how you see AI as maybe changing the boundary on that lack of resources? Because obviously somebody with you know, a DALL-E or a Chat GPT or a Valley, I guess Microsoft just came out with this voice mimicker. AI is really changing this lack of resources in an interesting way. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I would take it back to progress first. So yeah, just having a tool that's available may not actually reduce the lack of resource barrier if it's not involved in the progress that you're trying to seek. But I think, yeah, things like ChatGPT and other stuff, it kind of democratizes perhaps access to knowledge and skills. So I've not used ChatGPT so much myself. I played with it a little bit. I did ask it what is innovation and what is value. It didn't help me get any further than what I wanted. But when you look at some of the other stuff, like this generative AI and that sort of stuff, generative AI, then you know, now I can start generating artwork and things like that that I could never generate myself, and I could probably never afford to get someone to do for me. So, but now it's just at my fingertips, and yeah, with the value on getting someone to speak in my voice or someone else's voice, it's interesting. I'm not sure necessarily what progress it's going to help with. But then,
exactly.
That's
and I think it does relate to your adaptability and resistance with your Google Glass and resistance to certain types of AI. So this is a wonderful list. Thank you so much, Adam, for your clear thinking, concise thinking. I do want to put in a plug for you to, and when I'll upload this this recording of this Zoom to our ISSIP YouTube, and I'll upload your slides to the ISSIP SlideShare and share those in the LinkedIn group, and also put a pointer to it on ISSIP Twitter. So we'll share this more broadly with the ISSIP community. But I also want to put in a plug. ISSIP has a book series, a concise expert book series with Business Expert Press. And I think if you take the Zoom transcript that I'm going to send you, and you made a chapter on each one of these slides and just transcribed what you said and put in the one picture, I think you would be halfway done with your Business Expert Press book on this. And, you know, I urge you not to put in everything that you've got because it's overwhelming. But I think if you created the concise expert press book version of what you just shared with us, it would be a real contribution. So I'll end with that urging. It's totally up to you. You may have other plans, obviously, but and not the time. But I would just thank you again, Adam. This is great. I'll get it uploaded, share it with the community, and wishing you well in 2023. And with that, any last words before I stop the recording?
Only please come with questions and challenge it, because that's the bit this needs now, is real experience to say, hey, that doesn't make sense, or what do you mean by that? But yeah, great. And I'll keep that book in mind.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'm going to, let's see, how do I stop the recording?